You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. Go. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Go. Don't waste no time.
I meant to say this on, it must have been the last episode we did, but obviously given the Packers result, didn't get around to it. And I know people who are watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your Miami Dolphins podcast from, you will see we have a guest with us today. Before we delve into that, before we bring in that guest, I'm not a UFC guy, but was it a few days ago the UFC world lost? Is it Stephen Bonner?
Yeah, Stephen Bonner.
Stephen Bonner, yeah. And when I was watching UFC, like that Bonner Forrest Griffin fight was one of the most iconic. Like that's when I was like, "Yo, this is mental." And for him to pass away, it was sad. But I'm sure you as a UFC fan, would have felt a lot harder than I did.
I mean, we appreciate his contribution to the sport. It had it not been for that fight, like you said, you're not even a fan, but you was around and you had the UFC 1, or you know what I'm saying? You remember the Lyoto Machitas of the world and the Tito Ortizes and stuff. So that fight was a catalyst to springing mixed martial arts to where it is today. So we definitely appreciate his contribution to the sport, man. Hey, we had a pretty good last episode, bro. And I don't want to say I had a rant. Not really a rant. Yeah, I don't think that's a rant. I think
it was.
No, I think that's I thought it was like a therapy session. I had to get some stuff off my chest. And some people hit us up. And it's funny, we're gonna bring the guests in, but it's funny how it happened, right? So y'all know what time it is. It's Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. I'm your boy, Charlie Touche. I got my co-host, Kadeem Simmons, with me. It's always for the fans and by the fans. Your favorite podcast. Man, we're going to bring in our guest, and it is no one I don't think is more suitable, maybe. I could use a better word, but I can't come up with one right now. But it's the perfect person to have this conversation with, because we can go back and forth and articulate what we need to say or try to say to one side of the fan base and the other side of the fan base. So without further ado, it is Josh Katzker from the same Old Dolphins show. Josh, we appreciate you rocking with us. What's happening, bro?
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me on. I hope you guys had a good holiday season. And forgive me if I sound a little bit stuffy. It's that time of year where my sinuses are going a little crazy. So,
yeah, you asked me how my Christmas was, bro. How was your Christmas?
Man, it was good, except for like 3 hours from one, about 4:15. Other than that, it was a great day. I mean, my son is almost 6. My daughter will be 3 in March. So it's like prime time Christmas age where it's just, you wake up and it's just overstimulation for it's like a rush for like 2.5 hours of opening presents and having a great time. And then there's that crash, and the crash coincided with the start of the Dolphins game, which was perfect. So it was an excellent Christmas. We also had some friends over, which kind of helped ease the blow after the football game was over. We ate really well. It was, it's one of those days where you just be grateful. You know what I mean? To be able to have friends and family and gifts for the family. It was great.
For sure. So Christmas morning, I want to say I woke up, and I'm sure you're in a couple group chats, Josh. Me and Kadeem are in a couple group chats. And one of the group chats, Kadeem is just the Grinch. Like, bro, it's Christmas morning. What is up with you, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? And Kadeem verbatim says, I don't like Christmas. Like, come on, Grinch. Like, bro, it fits his personality well. But funny story, real quick, man. So I'm visiting my brother for the holidays. Had Christmas here with his family and the in-laws, and beautiful thing. Get to be around the nephews and nieces. My sister lives down here. A whole bunch of nephews and nieces that I don't get to see that often. And we're at the Christmas, I guess, gathering. Maybe it's not a party, but it's where the game is on at. And more presents are being opened over there. You have Christmas at a couple different places. And I noticed that there were cookies, right? Like a tray of cookies, all kind of cookies, right? And the only cookies left were the oatmeal raisin cookies, bro. And I'm like, yo, oatmeal raisin cookie disrespect will not be tolerated on GTD today. So I'm gonna ask y'all boys, what are your top 3 cookies in order? Josh, you first.
Oh, well, I mean, 100% chocolate chip. In fact, I will go get specific as a South Florida native. Publix bakery chocolate chip cookies are that's like the GOAT cookie. From there, I will do like a peanut butter, like a straight peanut butter cookie, like a peanut butter sugar cookie. Those are really good too. And then third cookie would be, I think, probably an Oreo. Just like original Oreo, not the Hydrox, not the grocery store brand Oreo. The double stuff.
Okay.
Oreo, the double stuff Oreo. I don't need it. I don't need the pink ones. I don't need the blonde ones. I don't need all the gimmicks. I just want the original double stuff Oreo and a big glass of milk. Let's go. We're set.
What you got, Kadeem? You over here looking like you about to call timeout. What you got?
If I could throw a flag on that play, I would have thrown a flag. I say that because when you said what's your favorite type of cookie, I was like, we in the UK call them biscuits. So you say cookie, I'm thinking specifically of an actual cookie, like a chocolate chip cookie. But everything else in the UK are branded biscuits. So an Oreo is a type of biscuit. So we have that's why when I was like, well, obviously you get like raisin cookies or all that kind of stuff. So I was like, my number one cookie is a chocolate chip cookie. And then that's it, because I'm not the biggest fan of other cookies. But what's my favorite biscuit? I generally couldn't tell you because there's so many. I'm not really a biscuit person. Like in the UK, you have like something called a rich tea biscuit with a cup of tea. I'm not really that kind of person. But my mum and sister, they love like a rich tea or a shortbread biscuit with their tea. So yeah, cookies is a US thing and biscuits is a UK thing.
Bro, the first thing I said was oatmeal raisin disrespect will not be tolerated, and we didn't get no mention outside of myself for the oatmeal raisin cookie. And and you know what?
Well, hold on. You said top 3.
Yeah, top 3.
Okay, oatmeal raisin is not in my top 3. That doesn't mean if presented with an opportunity where oatmeal raisin is available that I'm not going to eat the oatmeal raisin. It just means if those other cookies are there, I'm going to eat those other ones first.
There's somewhere in here where we could turn this into a quarterback conversation. Somewhere in it, I feel like this is very, very relevant. We can really use this somewhere.
I think what we need to do is rank or like compare what quarterback is what cookie, or again UK what biscuit, and kind of go from there. Like what would be an Oreo cookie? Because again, or Oreo biscuit, because that has a racist connotation in the UK. You call someone an Oreo and it's all bets off. And I'm sure people would understand what that means. And yeah, so I guess a whole nother conversation.
All right, so we'll bring it back to the Dolphins, right? Still keep it on Christmas though, because I got a quicker story than that. So it's Christmas. Everyone knows we're watching Dolphins at Green Bay at Miami. It's Christmas morning. Santa done came through with the Dolphins on a surfboard because he doesn't come through with reindeers on sleds in Miami. And here we are, hoping we can get this W, and let's see what we get, right? So the game is I don't want to say it's a decent game. We're doing good first half. I believe we're up 10. It might be 20-10 at this point. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not happy where we are. We can make this lead a little bit bigger. And I believe, y'all could correct me a little bit later, I believe that's when we have a fumble by Raheem Mostert. Can't remember, but y'all can get me right later. Then I'm like, that's not good. Next thing you know, I believe they scored maybe right before the half. Maybe they scored 3. Can't remember. And then I'm like, man, this is bad for the game. Next thing you know, it's Aaron Rodgers. We keep the game close, and it gets really, really real. Aaron Rodgers is driving. I want to say it's about 4 minutes on the clock. And now we're having like, it's time to say grace. Christmas like lunch, Christmas dinner. I'm like, yo, can we get like everybody together before I have to leave this TV? You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, I'm not home, I'm visiting family. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go say grace with the family in the dining room. So I'm over here, we ready to say grace, and the game is on. It's like 2 minutes left now. I'm like, bro, I'm like, so I'm like, you're really trying to listen to the TV because it's like a hint low. I'm like, dang, what's going on, bro? I'm gonna go over there, and Green Bay might have scored. Did we hold them? Did we get turnover? Did we hold it to a field goal? And then now it was like, oh, who's gonna say grace? I'm like, yo, somebody just please say grace. You know what I'm saying? Like, someone say grace. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to volunteer. It's not like really my place like that, but I could have. So we go through like 2 minutes of who's gonna say grace. I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna say this grace real quick, man, because this is getting out of hand. You feel me? But someone else says grace. Someone else says grace. I'm like, cool. Whew, we dodged the bullet. Let's go. So I could, I'll eat last. I just need to get back to the game. I'm like, dang, this grace running a little long right now. Maybe I should have, boy, because this is bad. This is bad. You know what I'm saying? So lo and behold, we get out of it. Amen, amen, and amen. I go straight back to the TV. Turns out we hold them to a field goal. It's 26-20, and 2-minute warning comes up. What's the first play? I think it's a flat. It's a flat. We run out, throw it out to the flat. We don't get out of bounds. Very next play, game-sealing interception. Josh Katzker. I came on the Packers review, and I basically said, listen, there's no filter no more for anyone who hasn't decided where they are with Tua for me to have conversations with these people. Now, I wake up the morning after that, and Kadeem says, hey, bro, did you check your Twitter? I'm like, well, dang, what I missed? You know what I'm saying? What happened? And my dog, Josh Katzker from the same Old Dolphins show, says, sign me up. I'm stepping up to the plate. Put me on a podcast. Let's entertain the people. Get it off your chest, bro. What did you hear in the episode where I felt like I had to get something off my chest? And I remember I said the words verbatim. If you feel some type of way, holla at me. Dang, you feel some type of way, Josh? You feel some type of way?
I think what specifically got me that made me want to respond is that you had asked the question about why, when Tua puts up a bad game or a bad series of games, why he's the guy that everybody gets, that he's the guy that gets criticized loudly in national media. And you don't hear it about Joe Burrow, and you don't hear it about Justin Herbert. You don't hear it about Josh Allen. I think you even went down the line and you listed a bunch of Josh Allen passing numbers.
Yeah.
And I listened to that and I thought, okay, well, I have an answer to that question as to why Tua is always that guy in the conversation. You're even seeing it now in terms of him with this concussion situation, when it's like there's other dudes, other quarterbacks in the league that have been in concussion protocol, but there's a reason that Tua is the only one that they're calling on to step away from the game.
What you got?
And it's because there is a bias in the way people analyze the NFL, in which there is grace extended to guys or players that have more elite physical attributes, right? So they get more grace. So, for example, Josh Allen, 6'5", 237. Joe Burrow, 6'4", 221. Pat Mahomes, 6'3", 227. Herbert, 6'6", 237, right? Big dudes with big arms. Naturally, I don't think it's conscious bias. I don't think people are doing it on purpose. I think it's a subconscious thing. But then you have a guy like Tua, who's not significantly smaller, but he's 6'1", 217. He's a smaller guy. He doesn't have that big cannon of the arm. He isn't that big physical prototype, athletic freak of a quarterback like the Justin Herberts and the Josh Allens are. So he doesn't get the same kind of leeway that those other guys get when he has a bad game. Because when those guys don't have a great game from a passing perspective, when Josh Allen doesn't have a great game from a passing perspective, there are other things that he can do that can help make up for that, like his ability to run the football and his ability to change the game that way. I think that's one of the things that is subconsciously part of this debate, even though it's not audibly part of the debate. You know what I mean? That's what I believe when it comes to that situation. And you're seeing it now when it's like Kenny Pickett has been concussed, Matt Stafford has been concussed, but you don't see people calling for those guys to walk away from the game. You see Tua get it because he's a smaller guy, and on top of that, he had a visually disturbing incident that happened on a nationally broadcast game, right? So you have those two elements, you combine them all together, and that's why you got a player like Tua who's constantly fighting this battle against everything else. That and the fact he came into the league with injury concerns because of that major injury he suffered at Alabama.
Jump in, Kadeem.
Well, I was just going to say, so since we recorded, Matt McDaniel has addressed the media, as he does on a Monday, and he said that Tua is currently in the concussion protocol. He reported to Dolphins facility on Monday, said, he showed signs of a concussion. They placed him in the protocol. And I think it's very important that, us as Dolphins fans, Dolphin content creators, I don't want to say lay out the facts, but to very distinctly say that as we record this, Tua hasn't been diagnosed with a second concussion this season. And I say second concussion because a lot of rival fans, national media say and believe that Tua suffered a concussion against Buffalo, which doctors cleared him and said he suffered no concussion. So as of right now, Tua has suffered one concussion this season, but he's been placed in the concussion protocol twice and he's currently in it now. So you get the situation where certain or former NFL quarterbacks have rightfully and wrongfully been quoted and misquoted. You've had Kurt Warner being misquoted as saying that the Dolphins have the best roster in the NFL, but failed to get their job done and because the quarterback is a gut punch. Kurt Warner says, "I never said that." I believe there's a quote being bandied around from, I think it's Charles Woodson, saying that Tua should seriously consider retiring right now, given, he's in a concussion protocol for the second time this season. And rightfully, in my opinion, you're getting plenty of Dolphins fans. I'm not even just Tua fans, Dolphins fans saying, well, hold on, pump the brakes, because whenever a NFL player gets concussed, there's never calls for them to have to retire. Obviously, Derwin James got concussed on Monday, got taken out of the game. Charlie and I spoke about the Devonte Parker concussion a couple of weeks ago, which he still hadn't been cleared from. And it got me thinking, and maybe you guys could help me, with how long you've been NFL fans. Can you remember any NFL player in general who, after suffering 1, 2, 3 concussions, there's been an open policy of people to say they should retire? And the only person who springs to mind would be Brandon Cooks. So for those who don't know, Brandon Cooks between 2015 and 2019 suffered 5 concussions, 4 in the space of 2 years. This is twice in 2018, twice in 2019. Got picked up by the Texans. He was asked about his concussion history. He was like, "I'm fine. I'm going to be fine." But I don't remember doctors, former WWE wrestlers, media pundits saying Brandon Cooks should retire for himself. But that's all we're hearing about Tua. What do you think, Charlie?
I would say I want to be very fair, right? Whenever I'll just say defend Tua, right? It's always with merit. Like, how do we get to the man can't throw the deep ball, right? How do we get to, oh, he's injury prone? How do we get to he can't throw in the cold weather? I would present that to people and have them say their piece. Now, when it comes to health, like when Josh Katzker hit us up, it wasn't on for the conversation of health. It was, yo, we just lost Green Bay. You know what I'm saying? To Green Bay, I had the I don't consider it a rant, but I had the rant, and Josh Katzker responded. So for us to be on this episode, it's like, dang, we're not even really, we can't, I don't know if we say can't, but we're not really going to talk about the state of the Dolphins like we wanted to because of this problem. Now, that being said, to answer your question, Kadeem, it's okay if someone wants to pivot and have the opinion that, you know what, 5 years ago, I didn't think people should have retired from concussions, but today I do. So it's fair for someone to think that, you know what I'm saying? And no matter how long it took for them to get there, if they got there, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm okay with people saying their opinion on it. But what I'm not okay with is, you know, why do you think Tua should retire and not T. Higgins? You know what I'm saying? Because we seen T. Higgins motionless. You know what I'm saying? Come back and I maybe he wasn't diagnosed with the concussion 2 weeks, 1 week or before or after, but it was the same thing with Tua. He wasn't diagnosed with the concussion 1 week before Cincinnati, but then he got the concussion 1 week after. So it's like, yo, keep it consistent. The same way I'm talking about with quarterbacks is the same way I'm going to talk about concussions with people's health. Like, yo, keep it consistent. So, nah, man, Brandon Cooks is a good example, Kadeem, because again, bro, we have a concussion episode that me and you go through every year on Go Time Dolphins. So I don't ever want to minimize the severity of a concussion, even if it's one concussion. And it just so happens to be that our quarterback has a concussion, right? So now I'll pass it over to you, Josh. What do you think?
No, it's like I said before. I think it comes back to the fact part of the reason that you're hearing it so much about Tua is that he is perceived as small and he is perceived as frail. Rightly or wrongly, that is the perception around him. And that is the reason, that is part of the reason that when you hear people talk about him as a quarterback, you often hear them, it's like they're referring to him as a child. And it's like he has always had a bigger mountain to climb because of his the perception of his lack of physical ability, right? His lack of perceived arm strength, his lack of perceived ability to read the game. I think there are arguments about his ability or willingness to check down and read what defense and take what defenses are giving him, as opposed to what he wants to do when the play is set out and set in motion. I think that's a valid conversation to have there. But I think that's what factors into this conversation. And that's why we find ourselves in this position, and why there are people that are constantly feeling like they need to bend over backwards to defend Tua, because they see that they perceive that he is being evaluated unfairly, or not on the same kind of playing field that a guy like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow is being evaluated on. And I believe it's probably fair to say, because I think he's not being evaluated on the same playing field, because, as I said, he's perceived as smaller, and that bias plays into the conversation and colors every bit of the analysis at every level.
Here's what I got for you, though. If that's the case, Josh, we still got Kyler Murray. You know what I'm saying? And then now, as far as size goes, we Lamar Jackson probably isn't in that conversation. But my point is, okay, let's not talk about what I might think about arm strength or playing in the cold weather. Let's just talk about what injury prone is. Everyone says Tua is quote unquote injury prone. And if we're only talking about NFL, you have Kyler Murray never completed a whole well, I don't want to say never completed a whole season, but he's had as many injuries as Tua has, and no one calls him injury prone. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. So I think he didn't in I think his first two, maybe he completed a whole season. The last two he hasn't. So, but you're not gonna get the injury prone Lamar Jackson. Like, people still want him to come to Miami, which I don't. I want to be very clear, right? So it's like, well, let's not talk about the can he throw? Can he make this throw? Can he make that throw? Can he play in this weather? Hey, these boys are injury. First of all, I don't even think Tua's injury prone. I don't think Kyler's injury prone. I don't think Lamar's injury prone. But the consensus would tell you Tua is injury prone and they're not. How does that work?
Why? I think part of it is, again, comes back to the idea of the athleticism or the perceived athleticism. Kyler Murray is actually a smaller guy than Tua is, but he has shown that ability to be a scrambler and to be somebody who can change the game with his feet, and his ability to run. And so that Lamar Jackson, same way. Right. So when you've got a mobile quarterback who's out there running around and is like, has aspects of his game that is on the running back side of things, there is, again, a little bit more leeway there. Whereas Tua, I think Tua is a mobile quarterback. I think Tua has shown that he can run a little bit. He doesn't do it very often. He sometimes gets a little bit of the happy feet in the backfield. He gets a little bit of these guys going on. We've all seen it. He can run, but he doesn't do it so much. It's not a part of his game. When you're game planning for the Miami Dolphins, you're not game planning to stop Tua from running for 100 yards on you. And so that's the other part of it. It's that lack of perceived athleticism of a player. And again, I'm not sharing opinions here on the player himself. I'm just telling you what I believe is the thing, that the one element is that subconscious bias that I think colors everybody's analysis one way or the other on him.
Kadeem, you wanted to say something, man, and I cut you off.
No, it's you said if I misquote you, then I apologize. You said something about, obviously this podcast was going to be about, kind of like Tua and all that kind of stuff, but not from an injury perspective,
right?
And that we can't quite have that conversation. But I think, again, with this, and I can't even call it an injury because he hasn't been diagnosed with concussion. He just said, I've had concussion-like symptoms, and he's basically done the right thing and said, can you guys check me out to make sure I didn't suffer a concussion? And again, I didn't say this earlier. It's like the end of the first half. He scrambles, he throws it away, he gets tackled from behind, he goes down, hits the back of his head against the turf. And it's interesting because a Twitter user tweeted out after the game, I saw this tackle and I recorded it because I believe he had a concussion on this play, which basically explained why Tua had such a bad second half. There were Dolphins fans in his mention saying, don't do this, don't give Tua an excuse for his bad performance. And then Tua's like, the news comes out and everyone's like, well, maybe this guy was right. And again, this season alone, we've seen Teddy Bridgewater get tackled, stand up, and NFL spotters go, he stumbled, take him out of the game. There was nothing with the Devonte Parker concussion, and no doctors inside the stadium. Tua himself didn't realize, or didn't seem like he realized at the time, he suffered a concussion. And what we're seeing now is everyone going, also again, not everyone, but the people who said that Tua is injury prone, the Dolphins need to bring in a new quarterback, that conversation has started up again. Even though we don't even know whether he's going to play on Sunday, the consensus seems to be this latest issue has once again shown that Tua can't stay healthy, can't stay fit, and the Dolphins need to move on. And it's I don't know if interesting is the right word, but no two concussions are the same. You can get a concussion in so many different ways, and in contact sports across the world, concussions happen. Even in UK soccer, football, people get concussions when heading the ball. It's Josh, me and you are massive wrestling fans, and over the past few years, we've seen Bryan Danielson have to retire from the WWE, spend years out, and then come back because I don't want to say solely his concussion problem, but he was deemed able to return to the wrestling ring. Same with Christian Cage, had to retire due to concussions, is now back wrestling on a weekly basis, simply because they've managed to or he's been cleared by doctors. You're seeing Adam Cole hadn't wrestled in months because of a concussion, and they don't know if he's going to wrestle again. It's in contact sports, in physical sports. Unfortunately, concussions are the horrible side of the game, but you can't get rid of them. Same, and you know, if Tua plays on Sunday or Tua doesn't play on Sunday, we can't guarantee that Tua will never ever get a concussion again. You can play the game as safe as possible. You know, even after the last concussions, and he said, "I'm going to learn to throw it away and better protect myself." I think, in my opinion, it's fair to say he's done a lot better job of throwing the ball away, and yet the alleged or potential concussion got picked up of him throwing the ball away. So what do you do? So Josh, as I guess I'll ask you, do you think it's, and this is kind of like a loaded question, so I apologize, but do you think it's fair or warranted that this conversation has once again started again? Should the Dolphins move on from Tua because of his perceived lack of being able to stay healthy?
So yeah, it is a loaded question. That is, but here's what I'll say. First and foremost, in terms of the player, it is and whether it is the right thing for him to do, because I know that this is a conversation that everybody wants to have, as to whether or not Tua should play again. And you got all the analysts, all the talking heads. It's like, oh, here's an opportunity to talk about this, that, and the other thing about Tua's health. Listen, that is a conversation between Tua, his doctors, his family, and his faith, basically, for them to sit down together and make that a conversation about what is the right thing for him to do and whether that's continuing his career. That's not my business. That's no analyst's business. And I don't need to hear anybody's opinion on that matter, other than that's his decision. Okay. In terms of personally, what he wants to do. In terms of, is it fair for the Dolphins to look at this situation? He self-reported his symptoms here, right? I can get into a whole other conversation about the NFL's concussion protocols being a joke, and the idea of the concussion spotter being a joke. And we could get into that if you want to, because I have a whole other thing about that. But in terms of whether it's fair for the Dolphins to allow this to play into their decision-making, I mean, whether you want to hear it or not, it is fair, because I'm going to be as objective as possible here. I think it is fair to say that through the first 3 years of Tua Tagovailoa's career, the results that you have seen from him on field have been mixed. I think you have seen the highs of what he can do. You have seen him be an excellent MVP caliber player for stretches this season. And you've also seen him, particularly in this recent stretch, you've seen him be not great. We're in that place right now where he is, the Dolphins are kind of evaluating the consistency of this player. He's been put into this new system, and we saw him thrive, right? And I, on the most recent episode, our Packers recap episode of the Same Old Dolphins Show, I talked about this, how we have seen Tua and Mike McDaniel's offense. The two of them have thrived together, right? And it's been beautiful to watch. But now we've seen that teams have caught up, and we have not seen Tua be able to take that next step forward in his progression as an NFL quarterback, to be able to say, okay, I'm aggressive. I know what I want to do. But I see what the defense is giving me now. They're taking away what I want to do. So I need to be able to keep my aggressiveness in check and take what they're giving me, which, because of the system that Mike McDaniel has put in place, still has guys running wide open, right? So we need to see him take that next step in his progression. To be clear, Tua Tagovailoa is the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins in 2023, as long as Mike McDaniel remains the head coach and as long as Tua says he wants to continue playing football. He's the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins next year. And quite frankly, I think he's also going to be around in 2024 as well, because I think, just based on what the Dolphins have left themselves wiggle room wise, they're going to have to exercise his 5th-year option as well. But what we are not yet at a place is to where the Dolphins, I think, are going to be able to give him a new contract yet and guarantee him a lot of money, because you still need to have Tua prove that he can go out there and be out there for a full season. And the concussion thing is warranted to have the conversation, because I am not a big believer in the idea of, oh, this guy is injury prone. Oh, he busted his ribs. Oh, he hurt his wrist. Oh, he hurt his leg. Whatever. Those are it's really kind of fluky that somebody has suffered all of these injuries, right? The fact that you broke your wrist 1 year doesn't make you more likely to break your wrist again down the line. With concussions, the opposite is true. Once you've suffered a concussion, you are more likely to incur another concussion and another one after that. Even as time passes and your body begins to heal, you are more vulnerable to that. So I'm not saying that I'm at the point where the Dolphins need to walk away right now, but I think it is fair for that to come into the conversation in combination with the fact that you've gotten mixed results from Tua Tagovailoa. If Tua was out there and he had been playing all season long the way that he had been playing up until the first half of that game against Houston, if he had continued to play at that level all through this road trip and all through the Green Bay game on Christmas, conversation is different.
Hold up, but what quarterback does that though, Josh? What quarterback have you seen play 16 lights out games in one season?
Well, but that's the thing, is we haven't seen any kind of consistency that Tua is this quarterback that can carry this team to victory even when he's having a bad game, which is the thing that you can see somebody. And that comes back to the other thing that when you were talking about the Josh Allen passing stats, when Josh Allen has a bad game and he's throwing bad picks and he's leading the league in interceptions, so he's doing that, he still has the ability to put his team on his back, like he did at the end of the game against the Dolphins, where he said, well, screw it, I'm just going to run the ball. I'm just going to take it and do it myself. And he has that ability to do that, which is an X factor that Tua doesn't have. So
you guys know I love UFC.
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts is my thing. And actually, I'm going to start taking up mixed martial arts, not to compete, just to do it for myself, just to have the skill set, right? I just love it. So pre-concussion conversation Sunday, right? I just wanted to find a sparring partner for the podcast that can just have iron sharpen iron. And when Josh said he was going to step up, I'm like, yo, this is going to be great. He's perfect. I'm glad he accepted it. You know what I'm saying? And let's have the conversation. But
let's go.
Hold on. Now, I understand that was pre-concussion conversation. Now, it's kind of not the same conversation, post-concussion conversation, but we can still entertain it. And it's only because I'm not blind. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the person who brought it to Kadeem that, yo, we should have CTE episodes. You know what I'm saying? Now, when you talk about a concussion, bro, I almost agree 100% with what you said about it's up to Tua and his family. If he decides to play, he should play. Kind of. Because I kind of feel like I wish we were in a place where doctors could know more about CTEs, but we're not. And there's no telling if we would ever get there. You know what I'm saying? And now that opens up the door to where, when can this man play? Like if the doctor clears him to play this week, the doctor, the neurosurgeon, the neurologist, right, says he's clear to play, and the Miami Dolphins play him, the whole world will be outraged and say the Dolphins made the wrong decision. Want to know how I know this? Because that's what happened earlier this year.
Yep. Let me answer the question at least, because you
feel me? So now we're at a point where, okay, everybody got their degrees on Twitter. When should Tua play football again? Half will tell you never again. I don't know how you come to that decision, but whatever. So now we're here, and the doctors clear Tua or don't clear Tua. And if you ask me right now, matter of fact, I'll ask y'all before I answer it. Do you think, Josh, since you're the guest, that he would be cleared to play this Sunday?
Well, I have no idea. I have no way of knowing, because I don't know what the situation is. I know he reported that he had symptoms, and this is the situation where they're going to go through the process to try to clear him. If he comes into the facility today and he has no symptoms, and he comes into the facility again tomorrow and he has no symptoms, they could absolutely clear him to play. And listen, I recommend everybody go check out the last episode of the Same Old Dolphin Show that we recorded on Monday night, because basically what my brother said, and I tend to agree with it, is if the doctors clear him, he plays, period. Because
Go ahead, Josh.
Because there's, regardless of what you think about him, regardless of what you think about him as a player or whatever, any of that stuff, the fact of the matter is Tua being on the field gives the Dolphins the best chance to win. And Tua, not having practiced all week, but showing up on Sunday, being cleared and ready to play, gives the Dolphins a better chance to win than Teddy Bridgewater does. And I'll go to the mat with that. So if he's cleared, he should play, because you can't, if the doctors clear him and he's good to go, then he's good to go. This isn't about PR. Who cares about PR? He's been cleared. It's the NFL's problem at that point. Right. If he's been cleared to play,
I know you were around, Josh. I know you were around when he was cleared to play and the Dolphins were under the microscope, and the world was calling for Mike McDaniel. Everybody in the front office, everyone has no type of compassion for their players. They're in the gladiator days of the Roman Coliseum. They don't care. I know you're around for that. So what is your response to that backlash? Because that's going to happen again.
Because I said it before and I'll say it again. If the doctors clear a player to play, then he should be able to play. And you should feel confident to put him in. End of story. Because it's not my job as the head coach. Obviously, I care holistically about the health and well-being of my players as people, right? And Mike McDaniel, we've seen that about him. His character is such that he cares about each of his players as an individual, as a whole person, right? And that is great. And that, and I would applaud that. And that's when he has the conversation. If you're Mike McDaniels and the doctor says he's cleared to play. Mike McDaniel then goes to Tua and says, Tua, you've been cleared to play. Are you ready to play on Sunday? If that player says yes, let's go. Otherwise, it's coaching malpractice. If you've got one of your best players available who you've been told is clear to play, but you're concerned, it gets into really muddy waters. It gets into really muddy waters when it comes to that stuff. But if the doctors, who's the person that is the primarily responsible for that player's well-being, has said this guy is cleared to go out there and play, then he should be cleared to go out there and play, and he should go play. And the Dolphins should not feel bad about putting him out there, because if they do feel bad about putting him out there, then what are we doing? Then what are we, literally, what are we doing? Why are you continuing? Why are we even having the conversation about whether it's right to even have this player on the team anymore if you're not comfortable putting him in the game after he's been cleared by the people whose job it is to clear him? Right?
I mean, that's how you get did he have a concussion against Buffalo? Did he not have a concussion against Buffalo? Half the world said he did have half the world said, oh, this is clearly a concussion. But Kadeem, go ahead. What you got? So
I was just going to say, this is, if he's cleared to play, because again, I keep saying that again, the situation between Buffalo and the Bengals, people saying it was the timing, it was a short week, all that kind of stuff. This isn't a short week. It's Sunday to Sunday. We've seen AJ Dillon suffered what they believe was a concussion, cleared protocol, played against Miami, and that was a Monday to Sunday. And there was no malpractice suits, no doctors on Twitter saying they've risked his life or anything like that. If Tua is cleared, if the doctors say you show symptoms, but we've run all of our tests, and I'm not saying and again, Joshua, understand the reference, the test that WWE doctors had on CM Punk when he suffered that concussion in the Royal Rumble. I'm not talking about that test. I'm talking about the one which Kenny Pickett, AJ Dillon, every NFL player this season suffered a concussion or an alleged concussion and got cleared. If Tua is cleared to play, then the Dolphins should have, like you said, have no issue in playing him because they've done the right thing. They haven't gone behind the doctor's back or anything like that. The only reason I think Tua might not play against the Patriots is if he's cleared on, say, Saturday afternoon and Teddy had all the first team reps, because I think that's what happened earlier on this season with Skyler and Teddy, and it was simply because I believe at the time Mike McDaniel was like, the only reason I think was Skylar was starting was it was Skylar, because it was after the Jets game when Teddy Bridgewater didn't have a concussion and it got cleared on like the Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
And Mike McDaniel was like, well, Skylar took all 13 reps. He knows the game plan. We're going to roll with Skylar. And then Skylar got injured anyway. So that will be another discussion for if that happens. But I think that would be the only reason in which Tua doesn't start against the Patriots, but he's clear to play. It was too late. Teddy knows the game plan. And again, people will argue, well, Tua's the starter, the playbook, all that kind of stuff. But, that's for another discussion for another day.
I think there's a very huge discrepancy from the third quarterback on your roster and the starting quarterback on your roster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it goes from, and we should throw names on it. I think there's a big difference from Teddy Bridgewater to Skylar Thompson and Bridgewater to Tua. So if he is cleared on Sunday morning, I think Tua's. Before I answer that question, let me ask you this. House on the line, feet to the fire, Josh. Not saying should Tua play. Not saying do you think he has a concussion. Not saying what do you think the doctors, none of that. If you had to bet today, feet to the fire, do you think we will see Tua playing on Sunday?
I mean, it's literally a guess. It is literally a guess. It's a completely uneducated guess at that. So I want to be clear by saying that this is not a prediction because I don't have enough information. I would not be putting any money on this whatsoever. But I mean, at this point, my assumption is based on the fact that he was displaying symptoms on Monday that he my guess is that he self-reported symptoms. My guess is that we probably don't see him on Sunday. It would be my guess. Maybe we will, but my guess is that we probably don't at this point.
What about you, Kadeem?
I don't think we see Tua. That's just my natural feeling on Tuesday afternoon.
Hey, Josh, you said based on self-reporting and all other. I don't even think it's based on that. I think it's based on the NFL saying, oh, here's another excuse we have to say we protected somebody, and they're not even going to clear him regardless of if he's doesn't display symptoms on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Like, yo, nope, we're not putting this guy out here after he was the reason that all of this conversation started in week 4 or whatever week that was. So I bet my house before on this podcast. I would bet my house again that we do not see Tua on Sunday, or that he is not cleared to play on Sunday is what I'm going with.
I think that'll be very interesting if the NFL, so I believe the NFLPA are once again asking for an investigation or are investigating the Dolphins for the way they handle the situation. And again, outside of one person on social media, on Twitter, who spotted a potential head injury which could cause a concussion, no one else spotted it. The Chris Nowinski's, everyone else was silent, and then they've all popped up again. It will be very interesting if the NFL or the NFLPA turns around and says Tua doesn't have a concussion. However, due to his prior injuries, and I put injuries in air quotes because, again, it was one diagnosed concussion, we have decided to sit him to have more tests. That would be very interesting. And the Dolphins can say, well, hold on, you cleared him. You can't stop a player from playing.
This is, I mentioned this earlier in passing, and since you mentioned it here, you kind of opened the door, so I feel like I need to kind of walk through it here. I'm really interested about this NFL concussion protocol because we saw how strict and how much the Dolphins were under a microscope the next week that Teddy Bridgewater had a phantom ataxia incident on the field in the Meadowlands, and they pulled him out of the game because the concussion spotter saw some mysterious thing, right? So we know that they were watching real close for a little while. Fast forward a couple months, and Devonte Parker is out there on the field wobbling, can't stand up straight, just looks like he just took a shot to the chin, and the game is ready to go on if Nelson Aguilar doesn't stop the game to get him pulled out, right? Crazy. So nobody stopped anything on Sunday after Tua took that hit. The concussion spotter didn't see anything, which leads me to believe that the NFL's concussion protocol and these concussion spotters are not watching the game as strictly as they were before. And the reason for that is, and I'm not a big tinfoil hat guy. I don't like to get into the conspiracy theories. Okay, that's not me. But I am really curious to see what happens when Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence maybe is in the playoffs and takes a hit and gets a little wobbly. Are we going to see the NFL force that player out of game in a nationally televised playoff game? I have my doubts.
That was a discussion we had when it happened to Teddy Bridgewater. And we have someone who literally said, and I'm reading verbatim, they said to myself and Charlie, sat next to a spotter, them guys are not really that focused. Because again, like you said, how someone can spot Teddy Bridgewater's alleged stumble, whatever it was, but no one spotted Devonte Parker. So are they literally only looking at a quarterback? Because even if that is the case, Devonte Parker had the ball, which is when he got tackled. So if you're only watching one person, why aren't you watching where the ball is? Or having multiple spotters? And again, even when Nelson Aguilar is, waving down whoever needs, but can we see this? And I'm not even glad that the NFLPA are investigating the Dolphins, but I haven't seen a single investigation around the Devonte Parker issue, which to me is a much bigger issue. Because imagine Nelson Aguilar doesn't successfully stop that play, and the play continues, and anything happens to Devonte Parker, someone should lose a job over that. Because all these refs who spot phantom DPIs or holding or face masks, they can spot things that aren't even there. But you can't spot Devonte Parker. And I'm in no way trying to make jokes of what happened, but he led us so well. It was like he was trying to do the splits. He was wobbling like he just got chinned by Tyson Fury. Yeah, and no one spotted that. And I'm saying this quite a lot because Josh, you're not a tinfoil hat guy, and I don't want to be that Dolphins fan.
What does that even mean?
That's the conspiracy. We'll have to Google tinfoil hat for Charlie. But no, I hear you, Kadeem. They can't be pulling guys just because they took a hard hit, right? Because you have to look at the symptoms as they are. Because in the moment, we've all seen the clip circulating on social media of Tua taking this hit and he hits his head on the ground, but he immediately hops back up and goes into the huddle and calls the next play, right? And things are continuing on. And he didn't show any symptoms. So are we saying that now the NFL needs to pull people out of games because they took a hit where they hit their head, even if they show no other symptoms? Because that's a whole other conversation. And to the point of, why are we even playing this stupid game to begin with? Because these, I've said it before, I will say it again. I am a hypocrite because I know that this is a terrible game that does horrible things to people's bodies, and I don't believe that anybody should play football in their right mind because of what it does. My kids will never play football because I will never put them in the position. I will never put them, until they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. But at that point, it's like, I'm not going to let my kid play high school football because I'm not going to allow him to subject his head to that kind of damage because we know what it does to people, even at the high school level, right? But at the same time, I enjoy watching football, so I'll sit there and watch it every Sunday, even though these guys are putting themselves through hell and giving themselves CTE and going on to have horrible quality of life after the fact. Because I enjoy the entertainment. Maybe that makes me a bad person. So be it.
As someone who played football from 4 years old and has brothers that played football from 4 years old and the whole family of football players in my family, and now have a Miami Dolphin podcast that has an annual CTE episode, I have come to the conclusion before in the middle of my adulthood that, football has to be better. We have to be better to protect these 20 and 30 something year olds so they don't become suicidal at the age of 40 or ever. You know what I'm saying?
16, 17 year olds, dude.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. So now my thing is, as commendable as it was to see Nelson Aguilar do what he did, I would have loved to see him even go even further and not even been in the formation and point out the referee and just stand in front of Devonte Parker. Like, we're not playing football right now. You know what I'm saying? And I would have loved to see that. Secondly, I have to double back on the Teddy Bridgewater thing. He was not diagnosed with a concussion and still wasn't cleared from concussion protocol until something like Saturday. So it is the wildest thing, this quote unquote concussion protocol thing, but I have to do this because I would not be who I am, and I would get called out on social media if I don't do this on this episode, because you came for it, Josh, and I appreciate you coming for this. You feel me? And a spar is iron sharpens iron. We both get better, and we're already in the deep run of the episode. So I would love to go 5 rounds with you, but we cannot go 5 rounds, and I can't keep you. But at the same time, I have to give you something.
Let's go.
I told everyone. Matter of fact, Kadeem, write out for me for a second.
So it's and you were talking about, you know, the Teddy Bridgewater situation, and I think that's why Tua doesn't play this week, because I think the NFL, again, I think, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think he will have all these tests, all this kind of stuff, and I personally believe he's probably going to pass all of them, because I think even now, had he had a test on Monday and he had been diagnosed with concussion, it would have been released. You know, the Sheffers of the world get news before the person even knows that they've been released and stuff like that. So they would know about a potential concussion and stuff like that. So I think the NFL will take their time with this one. I think they will do test after test after test after test, because, and this can sound really harsh and really skeptical, tinfoil hat time, I think they will do everything not just for the safety of Tua, but for themselves as well. They are going to clear him to the point where it's like, we've had 100 different doctors say he's fine. So if something happens to him, it's not on us, because we cleared him. And if anything, it's the Dolphins' fault for putting him back out there. So yeah, that's what I think. They're going to take their time. They're going to do extra tests. And then once they've done the extra test, they're going to do the extra test. And I take it that look is because you just saw the Man United match hit something at the post.
Yep.
Yes. That's why I was talking. I kind of look at my right a bit. So,
Spoiler alert.
My bad, fellas. So
all good, man.
Anyone looking at YouTube, you guys see me had to answer a phone call. Business before pleasure. You know what I'm saying? And Josh,
yeah, man.
I was on the podcast. I'm like, listen, man, I'm done with everyone on the fence and hiding in the. You know what? I don't think you're a big receipts guy, but I am a big receipts guy.
No,
I love the fact that people, and I said this before, I'll say it again. If you have a take on Twitter for the world to see it, I believe you should be ready to defend your take on Twitter for the world to see it. Now, I don't believe that people should come at you over personal stuff. And you know what I'm saying? If we're talking about sports and you say, yo, this team made the wrong decision on Twitter, turns out the team did not make the wrong decision on Twitter, be ready to have some mentions. I don't believe that's bullying. And I obviously, I do not condone bullying. I think you should be tactful in what you need to say. We're not coming after no one's dome. You know what I'm saying? All that being said, Josh, I just found myself on Twitter and I'm like, listen, I've always been this person. I told LB, I told Kadeem, I told this podcast, people, our listeners, we appreciate y'all. Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. And I said, bro, when I'm on social media, if the person does not have a picture of who they are on social media and they are saying all kind of stuff, bro, ain't no way. Okay. I'm not going to bat. I'm not arguing with this person who could be a 12-year-old. You know what I'm saying? I'm not arguing with this person who is just getting their rocks off. You feel me? So ain't no way. That being said, if you, not you, Josh, but if someone is on the fence about Tua, it's okay to be on the fence about Tua. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Now, my thing is, I, Charlie Touche, will not have a debate with you about my takes on Tua if you don't have your takes on Tua. Someone's not going to come to me talking about, oh, well, what about this, and this? And I have to stop the conversation there. And I used to allow that. But now it's, well, where are you on Tua? And Josh, you answered the bell first, and I gotta ask you, where are you on Tua? Is Tua it? Is Tua not it? Is he the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins? Do you believe he's the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins? What we got?
You put me on the spot right here.
Funny, man.
Little bit.
You put me on the spot right here. I mean, if I had to answer right now, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, if you pose the question like this, am I ready to hand Tua an extension and to give him a new contract to continue to be the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins after his 5th year? I will tell you that right now, I cannot write that contract. I cannot sign my name on that contract right now.
Bro, I can't write that contract either, Josh. I'm not.
Okay.
I would.
So
I
we're
wouldn't
on the
ask
same
about that.
page.
Yo, look, right there, we're on the same page. I would not have someone say, "Hey, does Tua get an extension when he's in his 3rd season? He has another season. We can give him his 5th year option. We could 5th year option him still, so we'll have him locked in for the 4th and the 5th. This is business at the same time. I just believe he will be the franchise quarter. He is the franchise quarterback, and I do believe that's the question. I guess I do believe he will earn an extension. Now, I guess that's the question I should put in front of you. Do you believe Tua will earn an extension? And there's no wrong answer, Josh. We're not gonna not be friends if you say no, bro. I just want you to understand that.
Of course. If I had to, if you had to put me, since you're putting me on the spot right here, if I had to really think about it, and I have to take a look at all of the body of evidence that I have before me, I would say that at this point in time, I do not believe that Tua is the guy that is going to lead the Miami Dolphins to their next era of greatness. As much as I want him to be, as much as I would love him to be, because especially watching what this clown show organization has done off the field with their assets, right? Buying into this team for right now, for this moment. Let's be clear. The best chance that the Miami Dolphins have to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, which is what I believe you said the Dolphins would do with Tua as their quarterback, is win a
Super Bowl. I said that. Hold on. I want to make sure it's clear that I said that, because I'm not backing down from it. I said Tua will win a championship during his rookie contract.
So he's got 2 years left.
He's
got this year and 2 years after.
He's going to win it next year. And then my backup is the year after that. He's going to win it. like, bro, I'm locked in. I'm not backpedaling, bro.
Okay,
I'm here.
No, and that's fair. And I will say that at this moment in time, the best chance that the Dolphins have to win a Super Bowl in that window is for Tua to be that guy. Do I deep in my heart truly believe, if we're going to just talk about straight, like just putting my faith in the player and my belief in the player, and that's what we're having this conversation about, which I try not to make emotional decisions like that. I try to base my decisions. I try to base my fandom all around the information that I have in front of me and what I'm looking at and what I'm watching this team do. That's kind of where that's what I tend to respond to, as opposed to my belief or my faith in the team, because I host a podcast called The Same Old Dolphins Show. I mean, my faith in the team has been shaken and reduced to nothing so many times. But, also, as I said on the podcast last night, there's no wrong way to love your football team, which I truly believe.
Yeah.
So I might not believe that they've got it in them to make the right moves, to do the right things. I might question decisions, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be along. I'm going to be cheering for them to win. I'm going to hope for them to win. But do I believe at this moment in time, based on the information that I have available, that Tua is the guy to take this team to the next level? And I was really believing that this was going to be the year that I would have a definitive answer. I still don't know that I have a definitive answer. And because of that, I sent a tweet out the other day. Somebody sent a tweet out that said, I can't believe the Dolphins are doing this again. We did this with Ryan Tannehill for 7 years. I thought we had the guy and we don't know. And here I am with Tua. He's 3 years in and we still don't know. And I quoted the tweet. I said, if you still don't know, you actually do know whether you have a franchise quarterback. And so if I had to answer that question right now, I would say I do not believe that Tua is the guy that's going to lead the Dolphins to a championship. Cool. I would love to be wrong, Charlie. I would love to be wrong.
You're cool. So I actually believe we do have him, and I actually do believe he is. I believe he is the guy. And it's for me, he had an MVP type season, hit a wall against San Fran and the Chargers, bounced back against Buffalo. Now, although we lost 4 games in a row, people will have you believe he's been trashed for 4 games in a row, which he hasn't. He hit a wall against San Fran and the Chargers, bounced back against Buffalo, had a good first half against Green Bay, and then he was like, I want to say he was 9 for 12 with 206 yards and a touchdown in the first half of Green Bay. So this is not the Tua of, oh, he's too wishy-washy. Like, bro, he had 2 bad games, bounced back against Buffalo, and I would not throw the concussion in there because that's not who I am. But I do. There is a disclaimer. The thing is, he had 3 picks in the fourth quarter. Can anyone say when the last time Tua had 3 picks in one game was? Just off the top, real quick, because we're running kind of long. Do you know when? Josh?
Buffalo, probably. So
cool. No, it's cool.
I was gonna say probably either the Tennessee game or the Buffalo game.
No, it was Buffalo, and it was his rookie season, and that was when we were chucking it up just because we were already down 20. So he doesn't throw 3 picks in a game. All that being said, we'll end on this because we're running long. Now I'm gonna throw you some names out there, Josh, and it's a bunch of names. We're gonna call it a name game. Stick with me. Just give me the name or Tua. For example, Josh Allen or Tua. Who you got? Who you taking? All right, cool. Allen. Right. That's how this game goes. All right. Great. So and this is not going to run long at all, but we'll just entertain it. So Josh Allen or Tua?
Josh Allen.
Patrick Mahomes or Tua?
Patrick Mahomes.
Herbert or Tua?
I'll say Herbert.
Cool. It's cool. What, Russell Wilson or Tua?
Tua.
You said Tua?
Yeah. Yeah.
Joey Bullets, Joe Burrow or Tua?
Joe Burrow.
Deshaun Watson or Tua?
Oh, with Tua for a multitude of reasons.
Trevor Lawrence or Tua?
Trevor Lawrence.
Jalen Hurts or Tua? Podcast 101.
I'm thinking.
No, it's cool. And why you think about Jalen Hurts or Tua? There's a reason we're doing this, and this is not a quarterback ranking at all. But we're getting somewhere here. Jalen Hurts or Tua?
I think I'd probably pick Jalen Hurts right now.
Right. Dak Prescott or Tua? And if Josh Katzker wants to come back and defend some of these, we can. We'll love to have him here on Go Time Dolphins. But it's not that serious. Prescott or Tua?
I don't know. That one is I'll say Dak.
All right. Kyler Murray or Tua?
I'll say Tua.
Kirk Cousins or Tua?
We talked about this in the preseason that Kirk Cousins was a guy that could potentially come in. I'll say, Man, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tie.
That's funny that you got Kirk Cousins over Dak though, but whatever. Aaron Rodgers or Tua?
At this point, Tua.
Josh Fields or Tua? It is Josh Fields, right?
Justin.
Why I call it, man? Justin Fields.
Every time it's Justin.
It's Justin Fields or Tua?
Justin Fields or Tua. I'd say Justin Fields.
Tom Brady or Tua? That's the last one.
What version of Tom Brady?
What we talking about right now?
Tom Brady right now or Tua?
Talking about right now.
I'd say Tua.
All right. Thank you for participating, bro. I'm sure there would have been a gang of people who would have tried to wriggle out of that. All right. And no one's holding your feet to the fire for these names. And
I'm sure I'm going to get it now because people are going to be like, you would say Dak Prescott over Tua.
Listen,
Kirk Cousins.
I want to be very clear. I just named 14 quarterbacks. That was 14 quarterbacks. And I left the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, Washington, Texans, Titans. I left all these guys off the list because I felt like, all right, let's be realistic. These are the 14 that are worth mentioning. And you kind of surprised me on Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, out of the 14, just from what I can remember, just spectating, it sounded like you were out on about 4 of them. And then you were like, I don't know, on about like another 4 of them. That being said, you kind of got Tua in like the top 8 in the NFL. Are you aware of that?
Okay.
Can I interject there?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit different conversation, but go ahead. Continue. Make your point.
Go ahead. There's no point. I don't have a. I'm gonna let you go, Kadeem. I don't have a point. I'm just saying if we're talking about who are we taking over Tua, I'm like, why are we taking these people over Tua? You know what I'm saying? Like now, there's not again. This is not. I'm not trying to, bro. You could come back and we can have a real episode and go at it. But I'm just saying because there's some quarterbacks. I agree with you. I'm taking Josh Allen over Tua to a degree. And it gets kind of hard. You know what I'm saying? Patrick Mahomes is the only definitive quarterback in the league today that I'll take over Tua. And then I think Tua, for my dollar, since you put yourself out there, for my dollar, I got Tua third in the league. And that's behind Mahomes, Josh Allen, because Josh Allen can run the ball in the snow. He could be a tractor trailer. You know what I'm saying? That is it. Mm-hmm. So for my dollar, I got Tua as a third ranked quarterback in the league. But you can defend yourself if you wanted to, because I know I kind of put you out there if you care to.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a different conversation because I'm considering this based on the offense that the Dolphins are playing in and all of that and all of that. That's like that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And then I'm also considering certain things about like, goal off a corner. Let's go.
I thought I gave it away when I jumped up.
Yeah, you did. I was waiting for it. But no, I was saying, sorry, we get a Manchester United sidebar here. But let me say, like, I consider a lot of different things. Like, obviously, like Deshaun Watson, I'm basing Deshaun Watson off of 3 weeks in 2022. And I'm also basing my opinion of Deshaun Watson based on a multitude of other things.
I think we understood that too. I think
that colors my opinion. You know, same thing with Aaron Rodgers and same thing with Brady. It's just like it's too much, you know. I mean, I was actually having the conversation the other day with somebody about Tom Brady, about how, like, if you took Tom Brady and you plugged him into this offense, and like the one thing that he doesn't have that I think is on par with Tua is like he's just a statue in the pocket, but he can do a lot of the other things that Tua can do just as well, if not better. That's who Tom Brady is. But again, Tom Brady, there's a whole multitude of other things that come along with that, and you know, so it's a whole thing. But and a lot, again, this is all me making split-second decisions. If I had to sit down, if I was going to sit down and actually like think about this and really think about it, I could probably make a different
that's why I offered the invitation for you to come back and we can have that conversation. But at the same time, it's just when people say, "Oh, I'm out on Tua," and burn it down, and it's over with. Kadeem, before we go, did you wanted to interject before we go into bonus time?
Yeah, only because you said that he had Tua as a top 8 quarterback, and I had to interject because you named 14 quarterbacks. Like, I'm in no way saying that Josh would have a Derek Carr or someone over Tua.
Oh, I understand that.
But yeah, but that's why I was a bit like, I'm not speaking on Josh's behalf, but it's more to say.
I ain't gonna lie. I was just saying I didn't think Josh was gonna have Heineke in this conversation. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think Josh would have Andy Dalton over Tua. Like, so I've already kind of did the hard work and took those quarterbacks out.
No, I'm kidding.
He's a massive.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like,
Mike White is the answer. So
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, if I knew Zach Wilson was gonna make if Danny Nichols was gonna make the conversation, I would like, yo. But listen, Josh, before we head out, bro, we couldn't go 5 rounds of sparring like we thought we would on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Concussion conversation just came out of nowhere. Tell everybody where they can find you, bro.
Oh, well, you can find me on every episode of the Same Old Dolphins Show, which is on the Dolphins Talk Podcast Network. So you can download, rate, review, and subscribe to the Same Old Dolphins Show on Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that you get podcasts. You can subscribe to the Dolphins Talk Podcast Network, dolphinstalk.com on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. You can check out dolphinstalk.com. Every episode of the show is posted there. You can follow me on Twitter at Amplified to Rock, AMPLIFIEDTOROCK, at Amplified to Rock. And the show is at Same Old Dolphins. And we appreciate the banter. Oh, another one. We appreciate the conversation. Sold that one. We appreciate the conversation. We appreciate the banter. My only thing is, man, don't come at me. If you disagree with me, don't come at me with the profanity and F you and F off.
You feel me? Talk about my kids and stuff. You feel me? Like, bro, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Bro, I will engage in a conversation with anybody, but like, you know, I just ask that you come out and let's have a conversation. Don't come at me, jump down my throat, blah, blah, blah. You're so emotional. Also, don't forget, I know some of these people on Twitter are 14 years old and they don't have the worldview. They don't have the experience. They haven't lived through it like I have. They don't know about the curse of the Tequesta. All right.
Here we go.
They don't know.
Here we go. Shout out to who was it that put it out recently?
Somebody
Finn-
mentioned it. I saw it the other day.
Yeah,
on
I saw
Twitter,
it as
but
well.
It's real. That's a real
King
thing,
of Finland.
folks.
King of Finland did it. I think more recent.
The curse of the Tequesta is real. Well,
Listen.
that will do a whole episode, a deep dive on that.
It was
I got-
Finland.
I got an overtime conversation for you, Josh. We're gonna talk about it in bonus time. But
Let's
listen,
go.
y'all know what time it is. Stay positive, test negative. For Kadeem Simmons, Josh Katzker from Same Old Dolphins, I'm Charlie Touche. Thank you for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Already.
They mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time.
Two things very quickly. I have a Cameron Wake jersey to give away, but we ran on. I didn't think we ran on this late, so first thing next episode, I promise.
Dang,
Still
Kadeem,
here.
boy. Like, Kadeem, dirty in our name, bro. We supposed to get
You
this
kept
jersey.
on talking.
Hey, I said, Kadeem, do you have anything? You said it's been like, matter of fact, I do. We have a giveaway.
Oh,
I'm
No,
just saying.
I can do it now. I've got the will now. I just thought I don't want to stop Josh from watching the Man United game because I can see him turning. I'm turning. So we can do it now. Giveaway now?
Let's do the giveaway.
Giveaway now. Second
do
thing
it.
before I do the giveaway, before we went live, so if you're watching on YouTube, we have the 2-person, branding overlay, which is the boxes and our names. This is the 3-person overlay, and Charlie was like, "Don't forget to do the switch." And I was like, "Charlie, I know what I'm doing. You don't need to remind me." I don't know what I'm doing because the one thing I did forget to do, which I'm sure Josh you would notice as well, I didn't show our names.
Oh,
So this whole time there've been no names. I apologize. Obviously, everyone knows who you are, Josh. You're Josh Katzker, Amplified to Rock from Same Old Dolphins. I apologize. But let's do this giveaway very, very quickly. So
let's go.
let me share my screen. Let me get the wheel of names, random name picker. It is spinning, but not spinning. We can all see that, okay? So for the Cameron Wake vintage jersey, here it is, courtesy of Tom Bolton, a fan of Go Time Dolphins.
Appreciate you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm about to click to spin. Here I go. Good luck to everyone involved. I don't know if you can hear the sound on YouTube. I can hear it on my
I hear it.
end.
I hear it. Beep, 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 beep.
Hey.
So,
Go ahead, Kadeem.
congratulations, Keith. If you could, actually, I think I might have your address already, but can you double check? Can you send me your address? And I will send this jersey as soon as possible once the post office opens, the strike ends, all that kind of stuff. So, once again, congratulations, Keith, for winning the Cameron Wake vintage jersey. And once again, thank you very much to Tom Bolton for donating the jersey for it to be given away. Over to you, Charlie.
Hey, congratulations, Keith. See what I was talking about, Kadeem? Like, oh, hey, make sure you got an overlay. I know what I'm doing. All right, yeah, we went a whole hour and a half of no names on the screen. I'm just saying. So real quick, man. So Josh, bro, in the spirit of the World Cup, I had this idea about overtime rules. Now, and the way the current overtime rules are, I'm not going to keep it too long. The way the current overtime rules are, we have an extra 10-minute period. We don't have like a 12-minute 15. It's 10 minutes. And if the first team scores a field goal, the other team has a chance to match a field goal or a touchdown. If the first team scores a touchdown, game's over, right? And then it's tied. I don't like ties, but I propose, in the World Cup, we had extra time. So after extra time, you have PKs. So hey, man, we got PKs. So since the NFL is trying to remove kickoffs and player safety, they don't want to play too long. They don't want to go to Kansas City tiebreaker. I propose, Josh, that we have a Touche's kickoff, where we don't end in the tie, but we go after the extra 10 minutes, we go to kickers and we back them up 35, 45, 55, 65, and we match just like PKs. What you think about it?
I mean, I guess if you need to have a result, I mean, I don't have a problem with ties. I mean, I think ties are fine. I actually don't like the NFL's overtime rules at all. I liked it the way that it was before. It's a 15-minute period. The first team that scores wins, period. And I don't care about the argument of, well, both teams don't get to touch the ball. You know when both teams touch the ball? For the 60 minutes before overtime. Don't come crying to me about, oh, I came all the way back, but then I didn't get the ball in overtime. Well, you shouldn't have fallen all the way behind and had to come all the way back. So I think it's fine. If I was going to change anything about the NFL's overtime rules, I'd make a 15-minute quarter instead of a 10-minute quarter. And, you know, if it still ends up being a tie at the end of that, fine. And the other thing I would do is take it back. I'd just be like, first score wins. I don't care if the team just goes down the field, kicks a field goal, because if you look at the statistics, before they made the change, the team that got the ball back won. The team that got the ball first won 50% of the time. And the team that kicked off won 50% of the time. So where's the problem?
Hey, I get it, man. I appreciate you, man. We ran long, bro, but I'm getting everybody's opinion. I like Touche's overtime, bro.
I mean, it's fine. Now, I think you probably have to figure out, you probably have to pick one spot and just have them keep kicking from the same spot as opposed to changing the distances. Because what happens, because then you get to, neither team can kick a 65-yard field goal because
right. I feel you. I think the pressure will bust pipes by then, though. I think, but I'm here for it. I'm not a fan of kickers. I think kickers should have K's and punters should have P's instead of numbers. So I'm like, I would like to have a kickoff. It would grow my.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
For your overtime, I know we're going super long. They're like bonus extra time.
This is the PKs. This is the PKs of the podcast.
Kadeem is about to drop the ball on the spot right now, and I'm gonna have to get in goal. Got to get my gloves on.
Yeah.
So for your overtime, for your solution, your Charlie, what is it? What did you call it?
Touche's overtime.
Touche's overtime. Are the teams lining up, or are these just kickers out there kicking like practice field goals?
I feel like they should be just kickers, holders, and kickers, right?
Pass.
Hold on. I feel you. I understand. But this is me trying to do the player safety thing, because the NFL will say player safety. We can't play a whole quarter, but yet they just added a whole game to the schedule. Whatever. So I would say it's just kickers and holders, and you do it. And you back them up 35, 45, 55, 65. And if we're still tied after that, line them up. Now it's a pass rush. But I'm not a pass rush, but it's a field goal rush. But I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to Touche's overtime having the rush the entire time. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, I would say let's make it, because the thing that I dislike about penalties, while I do think it's the most dramatic ending to a game that you can have, I don't like the fact that it's not really the game. They're no longer playing the game the way that it's played. They're playing a different game. It's got elements of the game, but it's not the game. That's one of the things that I love about baseball is eventually, and why I don't like the new rule where they have you put a runner on second base to start extra innings. I don't like that because that's not the game. Now you're playing some weird alternate version of the game. So if we were going to do the kicks, if we had to do the kicks, I'd say let's make sure there's 11 men on the field on both sides of the ball. Makes it a little bit more interesting too.
Hey, I just revised it. We're rushing the whole time.
Let's go.
45, 55,
there it is.
65.
I'm glad I could make a small contribution to this conversation.
Oopsie.